everyone, we're gonna give everyone a couple minutes to hop on. I'm also recording this too. So just keep your mics muted until the end, and there will be questions at the end of this. Um, and we'll go through the PowerPoint presentation and everything, and we'll allow everybody a couple minutes to get on, and then we'll get started. I'm gonna run and grab a thing of water, and we'll see who's back. Just a couple more minutes. I'll give it till 7:04. I think a bulk of people were going to catch the replay because I know this is a difficult time for people, but I'm so happy that you guys could come on here live with me today. I am going to be sharing my screen to go over the presentation with you. Like we said, it's going to be about basic nutrition. If you have any questions, because there's only a couple of us on here tonight, you can just unmute and ask me, go right ahead, or you can share them until the end. But that's really up to you on how you want to do that. But we're going to be going over just a lot of good basic nutrition information that I think everybody should know. And then it's also super informative, especially if you're trying to make any lifestyle changes with your nutrition, your health, any of that. So it's all really good practical information. And then I'll also give you some ideas as well as how to incorporate this in, which you won't find from a lot of many other people. A lot of people just give you the information and then leave you scratching your head like, what do I do now? Alrighty, so we are going to get started. I'm going to be sharing my screen. I will be notified if anybody else hops in. Alrighty. So let me start this. There we go. All right. So my name is Emily. I am a registered dietitian. I am the owner of Nourished with Emily, which is a virtual nutrition coaching consulting company. I am from upstate New York. I live in the Syracuse area. I do a lot of traveling. I go up to the Adirondacks a lot. I went to Marywood University and I was in their coordinated program in nutrition and dietetics, which means it was an accelerated program. I completed the mandatory internship in my junior and senior year. You have to have your internship done, a degree in nutrition to be able to sit for your boards exam. I did that, passed in 2018, and then I graduated in 2019 with my master's from Concordia University of Chicago in their applied exercise science and sports nutrition program. So I am super big into nutrition. Obviously, I love all aspects of nutrition, especially how nutrition can change our overall feeling, our overall look, obviously with weight loss too, but overall health outcomes as well. I work with a multitude of other professionals in the area, especially in the Syracuse area. I have a couple of clients right now that are part of a stroke support group because nutrition is obviously super important with any of those lifestyle related diseases. So strokes can absolutely be prevented and diminish the risk with proper nutrition. Alrighty. So, and I love dogs too. I have a little dachshund. His name is Mr. Magoo. He's a long-haired dachshund. You might hear him squeaking around in the background tonight because my parents got him a little squeaker toy for his birthday the other day. And when I was on a couple client calls, I stupidly gave it to him right before 3 back-to-back client calls, and that's all he did for the hour and a half that I was on calls with clients. So I felt so bad, but he is a good dog and he's cute too. Now, if you kick dogs, you cannot be in this session, so you're going to have to leave now. No kicking dogs allowed because I love dogs. Just needed to clear the air on that one. Okay, so we are going to start with the basics, the macronutrients. So the macronutrients, I get this question a lot. My mom asks me this all the time. I don't think she still understands it, but macronutrients are the building blocks of everything we eat and drink. So breaking things down into their smallest little unit, their smallest little increment is going to be the macronutrients, which are carbs, protein, and fat. If there are no macronutrients in something, there's no energy gained or lost from it. There's no nutrition, no energy. The only thing that has no macronutrients in it, really naturally occurring, is going to be water. But water is needed for life. Obviously, there's no macronutrients, no carbs, protein, or fat in it, but water is still needed. It's part of every single cellular reaction that happens within the body. Calories are not the little things that stitch up your waist or your pants when you go to bed at night. They're just a measurement of energy in food and in the macronutrients. So the higher calorie per gram means there will be more energy in there. So with the higher calorie per gram things, there's going to be more energy given with it. So like I said, our 3 macronutrients are going to be carbohydrates, which have 4 calories per gram, protein, which also has 4 calories per gram, fat, which has 9 calories per gram. So fat has the most energy-wise per bundle or per smallest amount in it. So it's going to give us the most energy out of all of them, but there's a distribution that we want to be having of all these. It's really not an equal thing, and I'll go over that in a little bit. Now, there's one more thing. Those are the 3 major macronutrients. There's one more thing in our diets, which a lot of people have, that does also provide calories per gram, and that is alcohol. Alcohol provides 7 calories per gram. So obviously not one of our major macronutrients. We don't want to be having alcohol every day, but it does also provide calories per gram too. Obviously not beneficial energy calories, just overall calories in general. So those are our 3 macronutrients. They are needed in all of our foods. They give us all of the energy. If there's no energy in anything, there's no macronutrients in anything, there's going to be no energy from it. So how much do we need of each macronutrient? So now that we know we have these building blocks, how much do we need? So our energy levels are going to vary from each other because we're all different. Depending on age, it varies, medical problems, activity levels, lifestyle, all of it. So my calorie needs are going to be different from yours, going to be different from somebody else's, different from your parents, from your kids, whoever it is. Everybody is different. So calories and the needs, the energy needs are going to be different from all of us. For my clients, we use a variety of ways to predict the overall energy needs if they need to track their intakes. So we like to get a baseline. I'll have my clients write down 3 to 5 days worth of their intake, including a couple days worth of weekend intake as well. And then from that, we can figure out about how much calories that they need a day. So this is just some simple math here. Usually we're going to take our weight and divide it into kilograms. So weight in pounds, divide it by 2.2. So take your weight, divide it by 2.2. So if you're 150 pounds, do this math. It's going to be 68 kilograms. I use 140 here. So it comes down to be 63.3 kilograms. Let me just check my math. So then we're going to multiply the weight in kilograms. So we have 140 divided by 2.2 is 63.6. We're going to multiply it by 20 to 25. So that's a range. Usually I'll use this range for weight loss. And that'll give you the lower end, which I usually do not have my clients go below 1,400 calories. This is very low. So 1272 to 1590 is that upper end. Whereas usually weight maintenance, this is going to be for not an active individual. If you don't exercise, if you don't work out, this is going to be a good way to kind of determine that. The 20 to 25 or the 20 to 30, multiplying your weight in kilograms by 20 to 30, it'll give you that good range. So if you're more of an active individual, I would eat more so towards that 1902 calories per day. Now, remember, we don't ever burn the same amount of calories every day. So this is going to be fluid and changing. Now, another way that you can go about trying to figure out how much you need is taking ideal body weight, which is not going to be what the chart says. My chart says that I should be 120 pounds, and there is no way in hell that I would be 120 pounds and have as much energy as I do. So determining what your ideal body weight is, I can help you figure this out. And then multiplying by that 12 will give you a good calorie goal as well. Let's say I wanted to be 135 pounds. That will bring me the calorie goal by 12 was 1620 would be a base amount of me to start if I'm not working out. So after we have a rough idea of how many calories that we should eat, taking your weight, dividing it by 2.2, multiplying it by 20, multiplying it by 30, there's a good range. 20 is going to be on a less active day or really no active day. 30 is going to be on that higher activity day. We're then going to figure out how much we need from that. So if I'm eating, let's say 1900 calories and breaking out my calculator here, I want 45 to 65% of my intake from carbohydrates. So that means I'm getting about 855% of my calories from carbohydrates if I'm eating at 45%, dividing that by 4. So about 213 grams of carbs. If I want to eat, let's say 20% of protein, I'm taking the 1900, multiplying it by 0.2. So it's going to give you 380 calories from protein. You're going to divide that by 4, and it will give you about 95 grams of protein. And the same thing with fat. You're going to take the 1900, multiply that by, let's say 0.25, something right in the middle, then divide that by 9 because 9 calories per gram from fat. And that'll give you a good rough goal of how much you should be having a day, as long as it all equals up to 100. Now there are variances in how much we need based on activity level. So someone who is super active, if they're an endurance athlete, if they like to run or they're working out many times a week, a day, the 55 to 65% of their intake should be coming from carbohydrates. Protein intake is definitely going to be higher with those that have weight, diabetes, blood sugar issues to help with maintaining their blood sugar levels. Protein is very satiating. And when you pair protein, especially with a carbohydrate, the energy is going to be released slower into the bloodstream than if you just had carbohydrates itself. So carbohydrates are our primary source of energy. That's what our brains and our muscles run on. So when you pair those carbohydrates with the protein, it's going to be slower, more even release of that energy rather than a huge hit of energy right as we have just a carbohydrate containing food. So we want to have combining things together. Fat will fill you up, protein will keep you full, and then carbohydrates are going to keep you running, basically. So now with all these macronutrients, they then also fall into the different food groups. So each food group is made up of multiple macronutrients. There are very few foods that only have one source of energy. So very few foods that only have one source of energy. A lot of our foods have multiple things. So let's think dairy is primarily a mix of protein and carbohydrates. There are some fats in dairy, depending on how much percentage of milk fat you have. If it's a low fat or if it's a fat-free dairy or skim milk or a fat-free yogurt, it's going to be just protein and carbohydrates. Grains, it's primarily predominantly carbohydrates, but it's also going to have some mix of heart-healthy fats and protein in it as well, especially if it's a whole grain. Whole grains are going to be more satiating, you're going to be fuller for longer with them because they have the entire grain in them. So the bran, the endosperm, and the germ, which contain those heart-healthy fats and the protein that helps to keep you fuller for longer. Fruits are really the only carbohydrate containing food that's pure carbohydrates. Coconut and avocado both have saturated fat in them. Saturated fat is something we want to limit. But fruits really only contain carbohydrates, and part of those carbohydrates is fiber, which helps to also keep us full. Vegetables are primarily carbohydrates and water, though some of them do have protein in them, like soy or edamame, legumes, so like black beans, Great Northern beans, the cannellini beans, lentils, those are going to have some protein in them as well, which can be a protein substitute. And then proteins are predominantly sources of protein, though depending on the cut of meat can have some fat in them as well. Eggs fall under protein source because they are predominantly protein, whereas nuts will fall mostly under fat because they don't have as much protein in them. All right, so breaking it down here, these are the 3 macronutrients, and this is how all of it comes into things. So fats, it can be an added fat, It could have nuts are also another source of fat, and there can also just be fat that are in food. So thinking like meats are going to have some naturally occurring fat in them. Same thing with dairy. So fats are naturally occurring in things, but can then also be added to things. Carbohydrates are going to primarily be found in grains, vegetables, fruits, and milk / dairy products, whereas protein is primarily going to be found in meats, dairy, and egg products. That's a primarily source of protein, as well as some vegetables will have protein in them, but you're going to get the most purest form, the highest quality protein from those animal products there. There are vegetable products that do have protein in them, like the vegetable or like the soy, edamame, lentils, things like that. You're going to have a higher proportion of protein coming from those meats, dairy, and egg products. So this is a really good example of how we want our plates to look. And this is, so there used to be the food pyramid, which is incredibly confusing. We now have the My Plate, which shows you the different ways to break it down, what our plates could be looking like. And I'm going to show you on the next slide some different ideas on what that can look like. So if we're sitting down at breakfast time, you can almost make that mental checklist of how am I going to get all of this in? Your dairy could be a glass of milk. Your whole grains could be having a slice of wheat toast. Your protein could be your eggs in the morning with a little bit of cheese on them, maybe. Vegetables, maybe you're cutting up a bell pepper and throwing it in with your eggs. Fruit, maybe you're having a bowl of berries, melon, or something else on the side. But that's really how we want majority of our plates to look like. Half of them should be fruit / vegetables, both. A quarter of it protein and a quarter of it grains. And if you go to choosemyplate.gov, you can also get more information. They have other like meal ideas for you as well that fall into this category, but I'll show you some of that too. So some different My Plate ideas. So how it falls into the carbs, the protein, the starch, the fruits and veg, all of it. So here's some breakfast ideas. We can do eggs any way that you like them. It really does not matter. Doing a slice of whole wheat bread because it's going to have added carbs, added heart healthy fats, protein, and fiber. We're doing a half a cup of oatmeal would be a serving. Fruit is going to be a half a cup of raspberries. There you have a serving of fruit there. You've got about 4 grams of fiber added from there. Vegetables, have dicing up half of a bell pepper, sauteing it and putting it in with your eggs, and having a glass of milk or half a cup of yogurt. You're hitting all of those things there. That's a super balanced breakfast that's going to keep you fuller for longer. If your breakfast is looking like one food group, that means we're not eating enough and you have to start expanding on that. It should not just be yogurt for breakfast. It should not just be a slice of toast. You're going to burn through that energy really fast and be hungry in an instant almost. So we really want the complexity, and we really want our intake to mimic where our activity lies. We want to make sure that we are getting the food in when we are going to be utilizing it best. Another breakfast idea, we could do a cup of Greek yogurt with some granola. 1/4 of a cup is a serving. Maybe we are cutting up some apples to have it on the side, or you can even put it in with your granola. Spinach and yogurt fruit smoothie, and having the yogurt with the smoothie as well. Some lunch ideas for you: 3 ounces of low sodium turkey breast. This is like the deli turkey breast with 2 slices of whole wheat bread, half a cup of fruit salad. And on the side, maybe you're doing some celery, bell pepper, carrots with hummus. I do love hummus. You can also make like a Greek yogurt dip, and doing a cheese stick on the side with that as well. You could also put a little bit of mayo on the sandwich too, maybe a slice of cheese if you didn't want to do the cheese stick. Another lunch idea, 4 mini meatballs with 2 ounces of whole wheat or whole grain pasta. It could be the whole wheat pasta. You could do the red lentil pasta or any other pasta that you'd like. 2 mandarin oranges, because that's considered a serving. A small side salad with 1 cup of romaine and assorted toppings. Let's say you're putting cucumber, tomato on there, a little bit of salad dressing, and a glass of milk. Those are both really well-rounded lunches that will keep you full for a while. Some dinner ideas. For protein, I love doing the roast pork, the turkey tenderloins, or doing the pork tenderloins because you can throw them in the oven. It's a good lean source of protein. Smashed and roasted red potatoes, one of my favorite. I also really love to do frozen mango slices and have them like after dinner because they're a good treat too. Doing roasted asparagus, and your dairy can be the 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese on top of the potatoes and the asparagus. if you wanted something a little bit different. Doing 4 ounces of tofu roasted, or you could pan fry it with a half a cup of cooked lentils. Lentils are another really good source of protein. Frozen berries with whipped cream for dessert, another one of my favorites. Steamed vegetable mix and a glass of milk with it. So I like to do, if I'm going to do fruit with dinner time, it'll be more so a dessert rather than part of the dinner combination. Or you could just get your 2 servings of fruit through breakfast and lunch. So the rule of threes, this is another thing that I do a lot with my clients that I definitely urge you to kind of consider. Ideally, all of our plates should have 3 different colors and 3 different food groups on there. It is not visually appealing to have a plate of all the same colors. Think of Thanksgiving, honestly. It is the holiday of beige foods, really. Think about it. You're having cornbread, which is a shade of beige. You're having maybe some cauliflower, that's a shade of beige. You're having some bread, maybe you're having mashed potatoes with it, and you're having turkey. That's not visually appealing to the eyes. So the more colors in there, we're going to be exposed to different and more vitamins and minerals. And the different food groups are going to make sure that we're getting more, we're going to be fuller from it rather than just having a little bit of food or just a little, or only carbohydrates, or only having pasta in our meals. So after we decide, okay, does my plate have 3 different colors and 3 different food groups? We're then going to ask, I should probably be eating every 3 to 4 hours. We don't want to go too long in between meals because our bodies, our blood sugars will start to crash. We're going to get shaky, hungry from there. But our metabolism, our body's be like, okay, I don't know when I'm going to get food again. Obviously, you know you're going to eat later, but your body's kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen now. So I'm going to slow down my energy usage overall. I'm not going to burn as many calories. My heart rate might get a little bit lower. My blood pressure might get a little bit lower. And I'm going to kind of just slow everything down to make sure that I have enough energy to get through the day until I can eat again. So that's why eating every 3 to 4 hours, you're going to keep your body full and focused, less opportunity for your body to have dips in that energy at all. Now, when we're having a snack, we want to aim for at least 2 different colors and 2 different food groups. Ideally, we're focusing on protein and a starch to help with that fast dose of energy from the carbohydrates while keeping us fuller for longer. So another really good option here is like, no, we talked about doing the yogurt with the granola for breakfast time. What if you did yogurt with granola at for a snack in the afternoon? Or you did, I was just talking to another client before this, she likes to do rice cakes with some peanut butter on it, and she'll put a little bit of like nuts on there. Really great combination of carbohydrates and protein to help with keeping you full for longer rather than just focusing on like, I'm only going to have chips or I'm just going to have Cheez-Its here. We want that combination of things to help keep you fuller for longer. Another good place to start is going to be logging your food intake. Before you change anything, that is the one thing I really urge you to do is writing down what you usually eat throughout the day and then asking yourself, okay, how is my energy? Is my weight changing? You know, do I feel my sleep isn't well? What's going on before you change anything? Because writing down your food can reveal a lot. If you find that you're only eating 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day, we're going to have to increase how much you're eating, and I can absolutely help you do that. But the first step is creating that awareness because awareness precedes change. And lastly, hydration is so important for overall health, energy, and digestion. You really want to start working up to getting about half of your weight in ounces. So starting small and just making a little bit of changes. If you don't drink anything with your meals, start with pouring a glass of water to have with your meals and building on there. It might be daunting the amount of water that you might be having to have, but starting small and slowly adding can be super helpful. Now, this is something I share with my clients, but I thought would be super helpful for you as well tonight. It's how to read a nutrition facts panel for weight loss. So I'm going to take you all the way from the top down to the bottom of all these things that we really should be paying attention to when we're looking at a nutrition facts panel. So the nutrition facts panels are changing. They're going to be looking like this. The major change is that calories is bigger and serving size is more accurate. So if you look at a 20-ounce bottle or 16-ounce bottle of Coke or Pepsi right now, you might see as the first glass, oh my gosh, 80 calories per serving. Well, a serving to them is half of the bottle. I don't know anybody that drinks half a bottle of soda and puts it back into the fridge. We drink it all. So that's going to be changing to reflect how much people are having. So that'll be changing to about 220 calories per serving, which is going to be worth that entire container. So if we're eating more than that suggested serving size, I think this is granola. So let's say we're eating more than 2/3 of a cup of granola. That means that our calories are going to go up. All of that other information down there is going to go up as well, because all of this information is only built off of that 2/3 of a cup. If I'm having less than 2/3 of a cup in a serving, all of that information is going to be lower than what I'm actually having. It's going to actually be lower. You're going to get less than 2,300 or wow, 230 calories. You're going to get less than 8 grams of fat. So just remember that with the serving size, that's a suggested serving size, and all of that information only correlates back to what that serving size is. With fat, there are 4 different types of fat. They only have to put the saturated fat and the trans fat on there. So we want to limit saturated fat. That is an artery clogging fat. That's the one that will cause your cholesterol levels to be out of whack, as well as triglycerides. So if we can control that saturated fat, keep it 20 grams or under a day, that is awesome. And trans fat we want at 0. So when you're buying something, we have to remember, especially with trans fat, they can legally label this as 0 grams of trans fat if there is half a gram or less in there per serving. So asking yourself when you're buying these foods, would there be trans fat in there? Trans fat is chemically made and added to a product. The Hungry Man meals in the freezer section probably are going to have some trans fat in there because they want that product to stay looking and tasting like it did when they made it. So probably going to have some trans fat. So it just makes you think a little bit about things. So right now, of those 8 grams of total fat, we only have 1 gram accounted for with a saturated fat. There are the 2 other types, which is the polyunsaturated and the monounsaturated fats. Those are the heart healthy fats. They're going to be found in plant products. They're going to have them, as well as oils, seeds, and nuts. So those are good things. We can get that most of the fat in this product is coming from those heart healthy fats, those good fats. So it's a good thing. We still want to keep in control of our fat intake. Remember, 35% or less of our overall intake should be coming from fat, but we want to keep that in mind. Dietary cholesterol, the next one, does not affect your blood cholesterol levels. They've been lying to you. Saturated fat is what affects your blood cholesterol levels. Dietary cholesterol does not affect your blood cholesterol levels, so do not fret if you see that there's dietary cholesterol in things. It's the saturated fat that does. You should be more concerned about that saturated fat. Sodium. The current recommendation for the American Heart Association is 2,300 milligrams of sodium a day. We, as Americans, eat 3,000 to 4,000 milligrams of sodium a day. That's a lot of sodium. So looking at a product and saying, okay, 10% or less is a good place to start of that daily value of sodium. If you can buy things that have the no added salt or low salt, low sodium label on there, perfect. And always rinse those canned vegetables too, because you'll reduce up to 40% of the sodium. Next is carbohydrates. There are multiple different types of carbohydrates. They are not bad for you. We do need carbs. Fiber falls under the umbrella of carbohydrates. It's one of those options, I guess you could say, but fiber does not get broken down and utilized for energy at all. Fiber is part of the plant cell wall. So our bodies try to break it down, but it can't. So it just helps with moving things along. We need 25 grams of fiber a day. The other 2 types of carbohydrates are sugars, which is just a simple carbohydrate, and then starches, which are a complex carbohydrate. They just look a little bit different underneath the microscope, but they're still carbohydrates. There's a difference between a naturally occurring sugar and an added sugar. An added sugar is added to the product to make it more sweet. So think of like your ice cream or a candy, whereas apples are going to have a naturally occurring sugar, meaning the scientist was not there pumping it with a syringe full of sugar into it. It's naturally occurring. And when we have naturally occurring sugar, that means that there's also going to be other benefits with it. So that naturally occurring sugar in the apple is also going to have some fiber in it. It's also going to have vitamins and minerals, which are very important. You will see that on the label, it'll have total sugars and then added sugars overall. So per serving, you're getting about 2 grams of normally naturally occurring sugar and about 10 grams of added sugar. We want to really limit that added sugar if we can. At the most 50 grams a day, I would want less. I would want a lot less. I would actually say probably 25 grams or less of added sugar a day. Protein needs vary on who we are, how active we are, and everything. A good rule of thumb is about half of your weight in grams. If that's too much for you or it's too full, you can bring it down to a third of your weight in grams. It will help you to keep fuller for longer. It's a very complex macronutrient. Your body has to work really hard to break it down. It also will help with maintaining your blood glucose levels as well. Underneath that, those are 4 of the 5 nutrients of concern, meaning that there's 5 nutrients that include vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium that we are, for the most part, very deficient in. A lot of Americans are. So it's good to know about how much is in here. Technically, this will also bring it over to the label process. If this has 20% or more of the daily value of something, so the calcium and the iron have 20 and 45% of the daily value, that means that this product could be labeled as a good source of calcium or a good source of iron. If it has 5% or less, it could be labeled as low in iron, or not that we'd want anything low in iron, but this product could technically be labeled low in cholesterol because it has 0% of the daily value of cholesterol. Now, lastly, it's not on here, would be the new the ingredients panel. It's listed from most prevalent to least prevalent. So if you're wanting to make sure that you're getting a whole grain or a whole wheat bread, that first ingredient really should be whole wheat flour or whole grain flour. Whole wheat flour, whole grain flour. If it has enriched white wheat, enriched wheat, it's not whole grain, it's not whole wheat. It needs to have that word whole in front of it. Now, vitamins and minerals. This is another quick crash course for you. There are a multitude of different vitamins and minerals out there. They aid in the reactions that happen within our body as well as our metabolism. They are really important in wound healing, energy breakdown, utilization, and storage. They're also acting as coenzymes in reactions that help to speed up the process. There are consequences of having deficiencies of these vitamins. Think if you don't get enough vitamin C and you get scurvy. If you don't have enough vitamin D or calcium in there, you could be at risk for osteoporosis, which is so common in women. They can also cause severe health problems too. If you don't have enough iron in your body, you can be very anemic. Your energy levels are lower. Your blood is not at the par that it should be. There are 2 different types of vitamins. There are fat-soluble vitamins and water-soluble vitamins. Now, water-soluble vitamins are not stored within the body. They are water-soluble. So we only will take what we need and you will pee out the rest. So that 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, because the B vitamins and vitamin C are water-soluble vitamins, your body is only taking in 75 milligrams of that and peeing out the rest. With those water-soluble vitamins, you're only taking in what you need and you will get rid of the rest. It is not stored. So if you're taking mega doses of vitamin C, hoping not to get sick, you have really expensive urine and you're not helping yourself any more than if you had regular doses of vitamin C. Fat-soluble vitamins don't need to be had every day, whereas those water-soluble vitamins do, because those fat-soluble vitamins are stored within our fat cells. We all have fat cells that helps to protect our internal organs. If we have too much of some of those fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, we can get toxic levels. You can have too much vitamin A. Have you ever seen if you've eaten too many baby carrots, your whites of your eyes will start to turn orange or your skin will start to turn orange? That's technically a sign of a vitamin A toxicity. So you can overdo it with those things, with the fat-soluble vitamins. There are macro minerals and micro minerals. Those macro minerals, just like our macronutrients, we need to have them in larger doses. So sodium, potassium, phosphorus, calcium, and magnesium, we're going to get more of that every single day. We need a lot more of that than we do of those micro minerals like the iodine, the zinc, the copper, the fluoride, the selenium, the cobalt, chromium, manganese. Those are needed a lot less, but they're still necessary. And a lot of the minerals, you usually don't see a deficiency in any of the macro or the micro minerals because they're really naturally occurring in our food. And a lot of it comes from the soil from the products that we eat. Our differences are how much we need are different between men and women, but there are blanket recommendations. Like I was saying with the nutrition facts panel, if there's 20% or more of the daily value of something, it can be considered a good source of that vitamin or mineral. And how do we get these? Well, you can take a multivitamin. You don't need the super mega ultra multivitamin that has 1,000% of everything that you need. I honestly just take the vitamin store brand. I have a good varied diet. It meets all of my needs. I don't need the 1,000,000,000 percentages of it. We're also going to get them primarily from whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, especially with those water soluble and those fat soluble vitamins. B vitamins are found in leafy greens and rich grain products. Vitamin C is found in citrus, berries, and greens. Vitamin A in sweet potatoes, carrots, bell peppers, spinach, broccoli. Vitamin D in dairy products, eggs, and mushrooms. Vitamin E is found in nuts and seeds, and vitamin K can actually be made in our bodies. It's a clotting factor, but it's also found in leafy greens and cabbage vegetables. Minerals are found in pretty much every food that we eat. We're usually not deficient in them, so I would not be too concerned. But if you're going to take a multivitamin, make sure it is a multivitamin plus multimineral. All right, so that's all I have for you guys. I want to open this up for questions. If you have a question, please unmute yourself and ask away. If you want me to go back on something again and recover it, please let me know if you guys have any questions. No questions at all? Last time I gave this presentation, it was like a half an hour worth of questions. I've got time blocked out. So if you have a question on any of this, if you want me to explain more of it, please just unmute and I can go back to it. Nothing? Or you can put them in the chat box. All right. Well, it seems like no one has any questions. If you guys need anything, please let me know. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to be sending out the replay to this into your emails. Once it is successfully downloaded, I'll send it over via email. If you have any questions, please let me know. Once again, my phone number, if you have any questions, it's my personal line, my phone's right here, 315-552-8811. That'll bring you right to my phone and you can ask me any questions. So thank you guys so much for joining tonight. I'm so glad that we could do this. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Have a wonderful new week. And if you need anything, please let us know. All right. Bye, guys.